Hey, I'm Alana Cerrone O'Hare.
And I'm Nick Millard.
Welcome to PVD POV, where we bring you the new insights into the coolest little city in the smallest state.
Whether you're a local looking to uncover hidden gems or a visitor eager to dive into our vibrant culture, we've got you covered.
Each week, we'll be chatting with the movers and shakers here in Providence, from restaurant owners to hoteliers and everyone in between.
Today on PVD POV, we're getting into the spooky season vibes by chatting with our resident ghost specialist, Courtney, from the Providence Ghost Tours.
And you are going to love Courtney. She is the best. Her nickname is the Ghost Mom, and I've taken her tours several times. But my favorite thing about this conversation with her today was we got some sneak peeks, but then we got to hear from her about some of her favorite characters and favorite ghost encounters with the ghosts of Providence.
There's some spooky parts of this. It's not a scary podcast, so don't worry, don't turn
Right.
away. But I did get a little goosebumps sometimes. She was talking about using the EVP. She was talking about you'll be interested in this one.
Nick, I didn't know you were scared. I'm sorry.
I'm not scared. I just got a little goosebumps.
Oh, Nick.
Hey, you were the one that you said that you were afraid of University Hall.
I was, and wait till you hear about University Hall stories on her tour, Providence Ghost Tour. So anyways, turn us up. Get ready to experience Providence from a whole new perspective. I'd like to welcome Courtney to the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us on what's probably your busiest time of year, Courtney.
Yeah, we couldn't have picked the worst time to have you on and get you and take you away from the stuff that you do.
It is absolutely the busiest time, but it is a good time to talk about ghosts.
Oh,
That's
it's
for
perfect
sure.
time. It's the spooky season, of course.
I
Everyone loves
actually
it.
was lucky enough to go on the tour a couple of weeks ago with a big group, and a lot of these people, right, were from out of state, and so it was a great tour of Benefit Street, which is so beautiful, like right as the sun's setting, and it's just like it's dark, but you can still see it's picturesque. And then they learned the history of this city, and then they got to meet Courtney. She puts on a wonderful, wonderful show, and it was perfect, and like the right amount of history and mystery, which is Courtney's words, actually.
We're building Courtney up here, but Courtney, if you'd like to introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us a little about yourself and maybe a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Courtney. I'm the owner of Providence Ghost Tours. We are, so it started as just a ghost tour. So walking from Prospect Terrace Park, which is like the most perfect, like you said, picturesque view of the city, and taking people through the College Hill area. And now it's kind of grown. So it's actually morphed. There are a bunch of different things that we do, which is why we had to add the S, right? So it was Ghost Tour, now we're Ghost Tours, because we grow, which is wonderful.
No, that's definitely a great thing for having something like that, just grow.
Yeah.
So what other tours do you run besides the Ghost Tour? We can chat about that.
So there's Providence Ghost Tour, which is kind of our flagship route, and then we have Haunted Benefit Street. Just debuted that this year, which is really exciting, and that just walks along Benefit Street, which is our mile of history. It's these incredibly preserved homes, and some of them are now like university buildings for Brown University or Rhode Island School of Design. But it's just a gorgeous space and wonderfully haunted, which was a nice little surprise to learn. And then I have partnerships in sort of the haunted vein of things with Providence Riverboat Company. So we do haunted boat rides. Actually start those in June, and they're very popular and go all the way through October. Then we have a partnership with La Gondola Providence doing Viaggio di Fantasma, which is the voyage of the spirits. And so it's a haunted gondola ride. And that's just in the month of October, but it's really wonderful. Probably the most romantic way that you can take in a ghost story.
It just sounds so eerie when you say it in the Italian accent, too.
And to set the stage, Courtney has on full head-to-toe garb for her other tour, Parasols and Pocket Watches, which I've taken as well. And I love that one because, again, like strictly Benefit Street, and it almost had, it wasn't strictly about women in history, but there were a lot of women figures in that tour.
Absolutely. So when I starting the ghost tour, I really felt like we needed to understand the times in which our spirits lived, right? You can say, oh, there's a ghostly shadow that moves through this house. Who is that ghostly shadow? What was the time in which they lived? What did Providence look like during their lifetime? You know, so I dove into the history piece really to understand my ghosts, and then just found so much passion and joy for those historical stories, these people that have lived before us. So I think it was 2023, early 2023, I was like, I think I want to do a history tour. And at first, my intention was to do one focused on the suffragist movement here in Providence, because we were actually like a big hotbed for that. Our ladies were ready to vote. We were ready to rock the vote, which is a wonderful thing. But there were just so many other pieces of history that I wanted to include. So it's certainly not exclusively a women's history tour, but Providence has been full of wonderful women from the jump, and I would say continues to today.
I would agree with that. So let's talk a little bit about how you got started with the ghost tours and all of your research.
Yeah, in 2006, oh my gosh, 2006, wow. This has pretty much been my entire adult life. But in 2006, I was early in my, sort of having graduated from college, trying to find my footing and figure out what do I do with myself. I got a degree in French, so a BA in French and a BFA in theater from University of Rhode Island. Wasn't exactly sure where to apply that or what to do. And a friend of mine, Mike Gertrudes, just was sort of in a similar position, though a little bit different, but we wanted to start something. And I had worked for Newport Ghost Tour while I was in college, and I've always been connected to ghosts and always loved them. And I thought, I think we could do something like that in Providence. And we just kicked off. So Mike did a wonderful job leading the charge, diving into the archives, talking with librarians, getting sort of direction, because this was new territory for us. Neither of us had studied disciplines that involved a lot of historical research. So it was kind of a process to find our footing and figure out, where do you go? What do you ask for when you're trying to figure this stuff out, to identify the history? And then it was interviews with people and sending out literally hundreds of letters around Providence, tacking things up on like cork boards and stuff, and saying, "Do you have a haunting? Please contact us."
I can only imagine that you're putting like on the back of milk cartons. Have you seen this
Yes.
ghost? And trying to get information from these people.
Were they receptive
For sure.
to it? Were they like, yes, oh my God, I can't wait to tell you about this ghost experience I have?
It was a mixed bag for sure. So there were some people who were really excited to talk to us, and other people who are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk to you about this. And of course you want to be respectful of everything, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Did you get some fantastical stories that you kind of knew that maybe they were, kind of like living it up just to kind of get their, 5 seconds of fame type thing?
Yeah, I think we learned pretty early on how to start filtering things out. You watch the face of somebody that's telling you a story. You see if there's a way to corroborate that story. Are there multiple people who have experienced this? Could we cross-reference it with a historical event? One of the things that we did, which was so morbidly wonderful, was go through the death records in Providence. And so we recorded different passings that we felt were sudden and might be more likely to create a ghost. So I formed the death database, which was just really a dark Excel spreadsheet. But that was really helpful in, someone would share their tale with us, and then we could look at the death database and go, I think I know who your ghost is. This is what happened to them. And that was really reassuring to a lot of people. It kind of validated what they had suspected was happening in their home. And I think maybe made some people feel a little less crazy.
One of my favorite things, too, is that these happened so long ago, hundreds of years ago. Yeah. And even students living in the buildings that are dorms now over on College Hill are experiencing some of these same things that people decades ago even were saying. So it's just so eerie, but kind of so cool, like this this modern meets historical event.
It's that fun kind of eerie that you really just like to know about.
Eerie, I want to know more. Like I don't want to like run away and never come back kind of thing.
So do we want to chat a little bit more about maybe some of your favorite experiences that you've had throughout the years? If there's something that like wouldn't give away too much from your tours. There's just so many
Years of
18
giving tours.
seasons of tours, so that's a lot. But so there was a very recent one. It was this year. One of the other things we do is investigation tours. And so I partner with a local paranormal investigator. Her name is Deb Vickers. She is part of the Soul Sisters investigation group. She was a guide at Lizzie Borden House years ago and she's got a phenomenal amount of knowledge and skill when it comes to investigations. So every so often we do investigation tours and people can join us for that. So we went to a new stop, and I don't have it. It's not on all of my tours because, to be honest, I just haven't had time. This is a sneak peek. Ooh, a debut, my friends. It's. I haven't taught it to my guides yet, so they don't all know this stop. But I was like, oh, we're going. It's a local arts club on the east side, and there are a couple of them, but it's one of them. And they shared with me that a member had passed away, and they felt like her presence was still there. So we arrived, and we had some fun ghosty gadgets with us. And this is we're doing investigations outside of the building, right? So you're sitting on the property. We're not within because we don't want to disturb, whoever is occupying the buildings. We arrived with a spirit box, which is one of my favorite tools. If you're not familiar, get familiar because you should be.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. It's kind of like a little radio, and it allows you to flip through the radio stations very, very quickly. You can go forwards or backwards, and you can have conversations with ghosts via this little radio box. And I'll be honest, I was extremely skeptical. I think I could consider myself a hopeful skeptic. I think there's a lot of things that we can explain away and are not ghosts. But sometimes we're also able to filter that back and really find something. So you use the spirit box, you can ask questions of the spirits or just have conversations, and they can come back with a word or two, maybe a phrase, maybe a whole conversation. Truly, I thought I was just going to get like Taylor Swift music and Patriots games. I thought that was what was going to happen.
I'm sure that comes through though.
Patriots games are just as spooky these days.
I know.
Oh,
sad.
One. I know.
So at any rate, we set up our stuff. We've got the spirit box. We have a REM pod. A REM pod, it's REM pod, is kind of like a tall hockey puck, and it has lights on top. It senses static electricity. So if there's movement around it, the lights will light up in the direction of the movement. So it allows you to be aware of that. We also had EMF readers, and then we had cat balls. And cat balls, just like they're light up spheres that you would give to your cat to play with, right? And your cat would bat it around and chase it and get very excited. What's that?
So I can just grab the cat balls from my cat's thing and just like
there
throw
you
them around
go and be like, "Hey, ghost, what's up?"
You can join the investigation.
The cat can just bat it around and just go at it.
There
That's
you go.
great.
So we bring the cat balls, you turn them on, and then you put them somewhere where they're not going to be moving, where they're going to be stable, right? Okay, so we arrive. We're a nice little group of investigators and guests. We also had dowsing rods. Sorry, I'm thinking about all the equipment we had. We actually had a lot of gadgets and gizmos.
There's a lot that goes into this.
There's a lot that goes into it. It really is. So we set up. We're sitting at a little table outside of the building, and I've never interacted with this spirit before, right? I've heard of her, but I haven't met her yet. But we got to meet her, and it was thrilling. So we sit down, we set up the REM pod, we put the cat balls on the table, which is a very stable table, which rhymes nicely, and I like that. We turn on the spirit box, and Deb is just such a gentle, wonderful leader. Like, I think she produces an energy that the spirits generally find very comforting, and so they're willing to communicate with her. So she turns on the spirit box, and she says, "Hi, is the lady that knits here?" And we could hear like some crackling. There's a lot of background noise with spirit boxes that you kind of have to learn how to listen through. And then we heard it crackle to life, and we had a voice. And it was just very, very soft, but she said, "I'm here."
Wow.
And then the cat balls lit up at the same time. So 2 of them, I have 3. So 2 of them lit up. And I mean, I was startled, I kind of jumped back and was like, oh my gosh, we've got her. And we were asking her questions specific to the haunting, so things that people have shared with me about what her actions are. We asked her if she was a cat lady, right?
I mean, you had the cat balls.
We had the cat balls, and she seemed pretty pumped about them. So they started lighting up. The REM pod starts blaring and going off. We were able to have a pretty dynamic conversation with her for about 20 minutes before we moved on to the next site. We believe she gave us her name, and we think it to be Alice. Nice. So I've been going through some obituary records, and I think I've figured out who she is, which is just really exciting. Her energy was so joyful and so almost just like someone sees me. It felt like there was a piece of relief to that she was able to connect with someone.
And that's an interesting part about this too, is that most times when people think about like ghost encounters and ghost tours and stuff like that, they think about like the spooky,
sure,
and the scary, and like the
the
dangerous, the
horror
haunting,
movie.
the
Yeah.
horror movie and stuff like that. So it's interesting, and I'm sure you talk about this a lot on the tour too, that thinking about the ghost encounters of like a joyous spirit or like something happy kind of happening, and not so much the like horrible death ones, which are happen, and they do happen on the tour, I know.
This is more of like being one, like getting to know the spirit, like existing with them, and you get that on the tour. Like it is in by no means like a haunted experience where it's like a haunted house and you're startled, but it is, you get the goosebumps for sure. And I think some people have experienced seeing the orbs when you would say, oh, at this certain place, people have said that you'll see an orb in the photo, but it's more kind of like a calming, really cool experience when you say that this spirit is still in this home and people coexist alongside of her. And it's just a really interesting thing. And I think that I don't know if you call it a skill or whatever, is really cool. And I'm jealous because I want it.
Thank you.
I know that we're in October. I know that we're in the peak season for this type of stuff. But how do you kind of navigate the seasonality of the tours and how, people aren't really thinking about ghost tours in the middle of July, in the middle of June, or even in February. So, like, how do you kind of handle that situation?
Unless they're on a boat, apparently.
Right.
Yes, the boats do happen. Yeah, I'm sure those definitely help.
Yeah, so we are year-round weather permitting. So if you want a ghost tour in January and the hill is not so icy that it's going to be like an Olympic luge, I'll take you on a ghost tour in January. It could be fun. My insurance would probably be very distressed.
Yeah,
especially for you, because you're always dressed head to toe, and you wore heels on all of your tours, I think. Or maybe,
no, I don't
maybe
think
the parasols? No.
Parasols, I do wear heels. The ghost tour, I usually wear my Birkenstocks.
Oh, perfect.
Because
you can't
they're covered
see
up
them.
by the bell
Yes,
of the
they are covered
dress.
up, yes.
That's great.
No, it's really important to start to manage just things like basically how to schedule, Do I need to have a guide prepared for tonight or not? So certainly I'm relying on my guides less during the off season, especially during those like late winter months when it's cold and it's pretty intermittent. So I'll say like, call me if you want a ghost tour and we'll make it happen if possible. But a lot of people are actually excited about ghosts year round. If we think about it, like campfire stories, goosebumps. Are you afraid of the dark? Like people are sitting around campfires in the summertime telling these stories and trying to scare the pants off each other. Ghosts are not seasonal. They don't, some certainly respond differently during different times of year, especially based on maybe a critical incident like when they died. You might see them become more active, but there is a year-round component to it, and I think that's actually pretty well accepted by people for the most part, which is fantastic for me. It is absolutely dynamically different in October, but I really can't expect that kind of volume year-round.
I think too in the summer it's tourist season, right? And so many people, they come to a new destination, they want an activity, a tour. Your tour is both entertaining and historical and informational. And so they get both of those things in one, plus they get to explore Benefit Street, which is something they would want to do anyways. So I'd imagine as a tourist going on GoProvidence.com, seeing the ghost tour, and they say that's something that I want to do, ghosts or not,
It's also at night. So like the heat of the day when we are all sweating to pieces and thinking, oh my gosh, I can't walk around in the bright sunshine. You're not going to walk around in the bright sunshine on the ghost tour. So fear not.
Exactly.
And we usually get that nice evening breeze off of the bay, which is pretty wonderful.
And the tours that you do with the Providence Riverboat Company are really great. I love those.
That
so
is
nice.
the best.
So who decides which tour leader gets to do the boat tours and who gets to walk?
We try to rotate. Yep. Not all of my guides are trained on all of my tours, right? So I have like 3 guides that are trained for the riverboats. So we rotate. Everybody gets a turn walking and a turn sitting.
Yeah.
So the sitting is kind of
I
nice.
took the
idea.
riverboat tour last year in the summer. It was in
awesome.
the summer? Or was it the year before, actually? I think it was before.
Okay.
Yes, last year. Anyway, sorry. I took it last year. It was great in the summer. It was just a nice. It's a different view, and I've always loved. We'll plug Providence Riverboat Company too. They're a great place to go get a tour of the city. Captain Tom is great as a tour guide himself. He knows a lot about the history of Providence, but having that in combination with the ghost tour is just great because you're getting the eerie kind of like nighttime feels with the on the river and everything, and you're not walking up to the buildings per se, but you're pointing out stuff along the way that you kind of see from this different perspective. And I think it's just a nice way to kind of see the city and kind of learn these things too in a fun, different way.
Yeah. And like I remember I called them and was just like, would you even consider this? I didn't know them at all. I'd never taken a riverboat ride, but I knew that there were down city stories that I really wanted to be able to tell. And they jumped right on board, so to speak.
That's that theater major coming
there
through. So what do you think it is about Providence that makes it such a good city for this type of attraction? Is it the history, like the characters, the combination of both? I mean, it's such a history a city that's rich in history, and we've had a ton of, infamous people coming through our city. So it just seems like the perfect spot. I wonder what your perspective is.
I think it's the combination of everything. So we've been around for a long time. Obviously, our history extends well before this area was colonized, right? This was the area of the Nipmucs. This was the area of the Wampanoags, the Narragansett. They were all here before that, laying tracks, laying energy, in this space. And then we have colonialism happen. Roger Williams arrives here in 1636. And people have been living here. They've been caring about this place. We've had so many different ideas born here. We are the creative capital, and I feel like those creative souls, like those kinds of people, just have that staying power. And so they remain connected to the buildings. Most of my ghosts are not here because of like nefarious, terrible reasons. Most of them are held here by love. And I think those artist souls that we have here, those creative souls, they just stick around. They
Providence
endure.
stays with you.
Yeah, I think part of those, what you're referencing to, maybe it might be H.P. Lovecraft, maybe Edgar Allan Poe, might
Maybe
be
a
some
little
of
of
the two.
that. Yep, something like that.
I'm sure that's some of the some stuff that your
Yes.
people, when they take the tour, can hear about, right?
Absolutely.
Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite character or ghost in the city, whether it's on your tour or not?
I definitely have some favorites. I feel like a mother trying to, say that I don't have a favorite child, but
I mean, we both
We all
kids,
have
so
a favorite. It depends on the day.
it depends on the day. So you know who it is, right? Though,
Of course.
Okay, yeah, we know who it is.
I won't say it here, though.
no, I have one ghost that I think she just like worms her way into my heart. And all of my guides have different ghosts that they connect with differently, and some that connect with them. If you take one guide's tour, you might find that a ghost is much more active for that particular guide than for another one, which is neat to have like a reciprocal relationship with them.
They like them better.
Yeah, exactly. Anne Mary Brown is the gal that just wormed her way in. Her memorial is part of Brown University. It's a building that's currently undergoing renovation, so it's not currently open to the public. But she was a very frail woman in her life. She had a lot of health conditions. She was very sick, and I think probably had to rely on other people to survive, so for her well-being. She married, she loved her husband very dearly. She passed away, and he built this memorial for her. And she guards that memorial like a lioness, like she's so strong. And I think just in her ethereal form, she's joyful to be able to protect him for once, she gets to take the lead for once in her life, or afterlife, I guess.
Yeah. And the Brown family is very integral in your tours.
It
I mean,
is.
as they are in the city of Providence itself, but they pop up on all of your tours.
For better or for worse, absolutely. Right. Yep. And it's that balance, it's that duality, it's recognizing people are incredibly multifaceted. The times in which we live are very different from generation to generation. And some people have, committed terrible injustices. The Browns, we cannot extricate them from the slave trade, but they've also done some really helpful things for the city. And where do you put that? I think there are a lot of questions that people, myself included, ask about what do you do and how do you navigate those difficult pieces of history, because they're absolutely here.
Yes.
And we have to think about them and address them.
Yes, and I think you do it in the right way, as with the the Lovecraft, same thing. And I think it acknowledges the bad parts of history, but also acknowledges what they've contributed to the fabric of our city. So
Sure.
yeah, I think we should end on a couple of last notes, but I'd love to hear about what you have in mind for the holidays.
I'm excited for the holiday. Well, so first holiday I have is Halloween.
Oh.
That's
Yes.
exciting.
That's the big one.
We know that holiday too, but spooky. But the Christmas time is spooky
Sure.
season too. You think about it, you got A Christmas Carol, which is probably the spookiest,
The Ghost of Christmas
the
Past.
ghostiest Christmas story
Yes.
out there.
So like the Victorians used to love to tell ghost stories around Christmas time, right? So Dickens is not alone in creating A Christmas Carol. There are dozens of winter-based tales, and think about it. It gets dark so early. People were gathered around fire and candlelight, and you're just trying to pass the time, and you're telling these brilliant stories. My Christmas tour that will be coming out is not exclusively a ghost tour, definitely more the history of Christmas, because it's also changed incredibly over time, whether it was celebrated, how it was celebrated, who celebrated it. And the more I dove into that, the more excited I got. So there will be a Christmas on Benefit Street tour coming at you soon, and it will be beautiful.
Love that.
I think
We will
we're gonna have to
definitely
hop
have
on
the
those.
details on GoProvidence.com. And Courtney, your website details.
My website is providenceghosttour.com, and you can find any of the goings-on that we have, which are many, with the exception, I would say, of the haunted boat rides and Viaggio di Fantasma. You have to go to Providence Riverboat Company or La Gondola's websites for those.
Yep, and we have all that information too on the GoProvidence.com website. We have all the events in the calendar too, so if you guys want to check it out there, you can. We generally like to end our podcast with kind of a little rapid fire question stuff. Just like
keep you on the edge
off,
of your seats.
off the cuff, like random questions. Obviously not so random because they're kind of tied into what you do. First question would be ghosts or vampires. Which your favorite?
Ooh, ghosts.
Okay, yeah, that was easy.
Bats
Though
or
we
black-
do have vampires in Providence.
Yes,
And if you take my Haunted Benefit Street tour, you'll find out more.
Oh, I love that
I like that
cliffhanger.
plug.
Bats or black cats?
Black cats.
Daytime or nighttime tours?
Nighttime.
Of course.
Favorite Halloween tradition?
The ghost tour.
Perfect.
What scares you the most on a tour? Have you ever been scared on a tour?
Ooh, yes, absolutely. University Hall.
Agreed. Last time we were there. We had a special visitor, but I won't disclose anymore.
I think I might have to take the tour and go over there and see if we can get some scary stuff going on.
That's a good idea.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on our podcast, PVD POV. And guys, you should definitely check out Providence Ghost Tour.
Yes.
ProvidenceGhostTour.com.
Perfect.
And all the information, again, on GoProvidence.com.
Thanks for sharing your spooky stories with us.
Thank you for having me, and happy hauntings.
PVD POV is a podcast hosted by the Providence Warwick Convention and Visitors Bureau in collaboration with the College of Hospitality Management and Center of Media Production at Johnson & Wales University. Hosts are Alana Cerrone here and Nick Millard. Production by Professor Brian Lavin with assistance from the graduate students in tourism management. Episodes are available wherever you download your podcasts. Visit GoProvidence.com for more information on these stories and everything else Providence.